What's up, Exiles? It's a Gemini here, and tonight I wanted to go over my Molten Strike Marauder before I respec it. It's currently level 87. I made this character in the 2-week race. I played it very casually, just to get the maximum chance of winning the Skype conversation with Chris, Jonathan, and Eric. The event was a success, and I wanted to share the build and how it works and all the links and all that great stuff and what makes it strong. So a lot of the strengths come from the Immortal Wukong build that I made with my Scion way back in the day, so it's largely inspired by that build. As you can see, it's got the cornerstone buff duration nodes along with the staff block chance. These were the only staff block or staff circles or staff wheel, however you want to call it, that I ended up picking up. Catalyze was one of the stronger ones to go with Molten Strike, since it was a very elemental attack heavy gem. If we take a look at the actual skill of Molten Strike, it says 60% of your physical damage converted to fire. Now when you use a support like melee physical, it actually increases the initial hit, but it will not increase the projectile. A support like added fire will add to the physical and to the projectile. So I recommend using melee physical over added fire if you're having leech problems. Because nerf only works off of your physical damage, as we see here, 8% of your physical attack damage leached as life. We also have a node here, Blood Drinker, 2% of physical attack damage leached as life. It's all based on your physical. So if you're struggling with life or you're struggling with mana, I actually have 2% mana leech on gloves, and this is actually enough to sustain my entire ability to spam Molten Strike and leech sufficiently. Now we have these gloves that have strength, life, chaos resist, lightning resist. This was a relatively expensive pair, probably one of the better pieces out of my set. This cost me about 25 chaos, I believe. This belt I bought for 10 chaos. These boots I actually found myself. This chest I bought for 10 chaos, then I spent about 120 jewelers and about 52 fusings to 5-link it. And then we have the staff, which I 6-socketed in about 250 jewelers and 5-linked in about 135 fusings. This was a very problematic staff because I'm gonna end up switching over to the Bringer of Rain, Immortal Wukong, Heavy Strike melee splash combo, because it just does so much as far as damage, stun, leech. Heavy Strike is a pure physical based skill gem that allows you to leech, the maximum you can, with a two-handed staff, because it's pure physical. I will end up losing the resist and the intellect, which I do not need, from the helmet, and the chest I will lose a lot of resist and a lot of armor. I'm using a Carnage Heart mainly because it was very easy to attain. I bought it for like 6 chaos. It has 20 to all res, which solves a lot of problems. It solves all your stat problems, and it only has it's 25% reduced maximum life. Now this is deceiving because it's only like 8% life nodes. It's actually not that much. When you take off the 25%, I lost like maybe 200, 300 health. It's not a big deal. But I also gained 8% physical attack damage leeches life. And this is able to keep me alive, more so with Heavy Strike. This ring I actually crafted myself with an alch. So I would price this about maybe an exalt and a half, an exalt, something like that. This ring I also alched myself, Hedgecraft style. Probably would price something like this around 20 to 25 chaos. And these boots, It's important to have an invasion-based pair of, you know, either helm, gloves, or boots, so that you can put spectral throw. And ideally, it would be nice to put spectral throw on a 5-link and your molten throw on a 5-link. I put about 1200 chromatics into a staff, and since it's a red-blue implicit, it's really hard to get 3 green. And the times that I did get 3 green, I always had a blue, so I really couldn't make use of that. So I ended up putting fast attacks, LMP, faster proj, and spectral throw just for utility. This cleans out rooms, cleans out those nasty hallways, and gets to those nasty invaders and keeps you at bay. So what did I end up doing with this 5-link? Pretty much, you know, leap slam, blood magic, endurance charge on melee stun, fast attacks. This is just enfeeble because it's my most commonly used curse. I wanted it on blood magic. All the other supports do not affect it. I also have vulnerability in case I wanted to switch to something physical and I wanted to level it up. And I also have elemental weakness, which is my damage increase. When I switch to heavy strike, I'll definitely be using vulnerability and no longer LE weakness. So if you wonder why I have endurance charge on melee stun with leap slam, it's because it's an easy, nice way to gain endurance charges, because with a build that heavily relies on Immortal Call, very low damage reduction, I can actually stomp on characters and gain endurance charges. So while I'm leaping from pack to pack, I'm already at a 7 charge. I pop in Immortal Call. Right now it's at 14 seconds. It'll be over 15 seconds by the time it's, you know, all my gems are 20 and leveled up. But this is an excellent way outside of self-casting endurance charges to gain more duration on your Immortal Call. It's very nice, convenient. So the difference between the Molten Strike character with my Immortal Call or my other sweeper is that I use a different Val gem. This Val gem is actually very nice for this build, because every hit that I take will end up in a molten shell discharge blast. So you'll see it fills up very quickly, and anytime a dog will run up to me or an invader, it'll actually obliterate it. So molten shell goes up, and pretty much anything that attacks, you see, is just very explosive. This is a great way and a great tactic of taking down bosses that have very high frequency hits, like the Academy boss. You go in there fully Immortal Called, and the boss ends up killing himself because of Molten Shell. He triggers it so many times, even though I'm immune to the damage, it still will trigger as if I were taking the damage. It's not, you know, as nice as Val Cyclone, because Val Cyclone just sucks up everything. There are deficiencies to Molten Strike, like when the packs are very spread out, you have a harder time, you know, getting to them quicker. And if they're very stubborn about being ranged, then you're gonna have to run up to them and just smash them. Also, the spectral throw, we'll see. Let me go find a longer hallway. I can keep very clear distances to fighting nasty mobs, and pretty much I just use this as a utility skill. It's not my main. Most of the time I'm doing 75% Molten Strike. Maybe 25% of the time it's advantageous to do spectral throw. With whatever melee ability you choose to go with, Infernal Blow, Glacial Hammer, Heavy Strike, it's always important to have that increased projectile spectral throw. It's such a nice arsenal and a way to not take you out of the game. Say something really nasty comes up, you can just take them out. You know, it's going to be slower, but it's going to be much safer. In an invasion type league where bosses can be crushing, it's much better to stay alive and DPS something a little bit slower than to risk dying. You can see right now that the molten shell is just doing work, and I have it linked with my Immortal Call setup. You'll see over here. It has Val Molten Shell, and the only one that it actually gets super benefit from is the increased duration. Extending the duration of Molten Shell will provide greater clear speeds and better boss overall gameplay. Alright, let's go back and take a look at some of the trees and talents. So I leveled up going down through the Marauder, your typical Marauder roller coaster right here. I also picked up versatility rather early just because I was having a lot of dex and int problems. And I made it out towards the strength node. Then I decided to go down and hit the duelist first, mainly because Master of the Arena, mana flows, and acceleration, these are all very, very strong nodes. You could start out as duelist, but you would have to get these 2 melee damage nodes. Ideally, I mean, since I'm a Marauder, I can pick and choose when I want to pick up these nodes, if I want to at all. So I definitely like the Marauder because I have that option. It levels up slightly slower than the duelist. The duelist has everything that he needs very, very early on. Very, very powerful. And I also got Iron Grip for the Spectral Throw. This does not it's not super significant, but it does help when you have a lot of strength. I have 484 strength at the moment. Picked up life wheels over here. So once I got the bare essentials from the duelist, mana flows, acceleration, this 1 life node, I proceeded down towards Golem's Blood. And I did end up picking Diamond Flesh at one point because my resists were really horrible. After that, I went over to Resolute Technique. I beelined it to that. Went into Templar, got Athleticism. I skipped everything else. I just picked up Athleticism, went up, got Holy Strength, picked up Elemental Adaptation ASAP. After Elemental Adaptation, I went back into Templar, got the rest of the life nodes here. Went double Wed, picked up these life nodes, picked up Enforcer and Catalyze, just to buff my damage with Molten Strike with Hatred, Added Fire, and the skill gem itself. I also use Wed to buff it up because it has that more multiplier. Multi-Strike, Added Fire, Fast Attacks, Weapon Elemental Damage. Oh, actually, I don't have LMP attached to that. Usually I use LMP. Enduring Cry can be on a separate link because it doesn't really need anything. It's a very low mana cost, 26. I can afford that almost any time. Elemental Weakness, Reduced Mana, Vitality, and Hatred are all linked in a 4-link. So you'll want to put a Curse, or you could put Enduring Cry in there. It's also an option. You have the 5-link with the Leap Slam. This is actually just... It actually could be a 4-link here. It doesn't really matter. The problem was being able to put 4 green on a staff or 3 green on a staff is next to impossible. My staff is actually pretty good. We found it in a Necropolis. It's like 450 pure physical DPS, but the reason this is actually the only primordial staff I've seen that I would actually use because it has the maximum increased attack speed. This is the saving grace on this weapon. If it didn't have this, this would be very, very, very slow. And your leap slams would be very, very, very slow. You want to use something with a good suffix with increased attack speed. That way you can leap slam faster. The cold resist was also a bonus. Crit multi, I'm not crit spec, and the accuracy does nothing. Everything else is just 12% block, flat fizz, and it does its job. As far as the flasks, I chose armor. This is your typical run-of-the-mill. I would rather have ample, but you know, charge recovery wasn't so bad. I didn't have to burn as much currency. Instant bleeding, instant shock. This is like pretty much my cookie cutter go-to flask that I always want on every character. Shock and bleed are gonna give you the most problems in those burst situations, so you need to remove those. And then these are my favorites. My flask, my Quicksilver Flask of Warding. I would prefer ample, but you know, sometimes you just, with limited currency in a 2-week race or any race, You can't really be too picky. Why do I choose to put my warding on Quicksilver Flask? Well, with the recent change to Flask, you can no longer gain the effect, the secondary effect, if you're missing HP. If we look at the durations, Quicksilver is actually much longer than a Granite Flask. A Granite Flask lasts 4.8 seconds. Quicksilver's last 6. They're guaranteed. If you look at the Granite charge, 30 out of 60. That means you can use this twice till it's empty, and it takes 30 to fill per charge. Quicksilvers only take 20 charges, and you can, if you have an ample, you can get up to 70 charge on use. That's 3.5 times of use times 6 seconds. That is insane for rolling curse immunity against whatever invader or mob. This is what's going to keep you alive. These I never leave home without. I always like running builds with that allow you to run, 2 Quicksilver Flasks like this, just because you can get 3 charges or 3 uses out of each of them and have them roll for 18 seconds each, and then some more if you need to. Overall, this build is very fun, but I do have my Bringer of Rain that I am going to be transitioning into my Immortal Wukong to gain that block chance. I'll lose a lot of armor, but I'll gain some damage with Flat Fizz, and I'll lose a lot of resist, but I bought a lot of gear to compensate those deficiencies. Hope you guys enjoyed this build. I'll make a forum thread with more details and areas of and just a list of all the gear and gems. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you guys later.